We learned recently that Google is moving Titan Aerospace, a company that started right here in New Mexico and was later acquired by Google, to the Bay Area. Now, Google will pay back the $1 million in economic assistance funds that were provided by the state, but there's a lot more complexity to the story than just getting money back, Laura Sanchez. You know, this is so frustrating, this story, for a lot of people, because that nameplate of Google here in New Mexico was a big deal. Mm-hmm. It's postmodern, it's about right now, the company of the moment, and losing them is a much bigger blow than just getting a clawback of $1 million. But in your view, what is lost here with Google's leaving for San Francisco?
Well, I think it's huge. It's a huge loss for the area. I think it, we need to retain as many of those current, new companies that are really growing, that are on the edge. We need to keep as many of those in New Mexico as we can. And so the loss of yet another one is such a huge, I think back to losing the Tesla bid. I'm still, upset about that one. And then to see that Google is also now leaving is hugely disappointing, I think, and it really makes me concerned about where we're headed as far as providing jobs for for residents here.
Right. Tom, good news begets more good news, and same for bad news. And so flipping a little bit, the good news when Google was announcing coming here, that gave our economic development folks a bragging point for the rest of the country. Huge, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But now that they're gone, that bragging point's gone. How do you see that? For economic development professionals here, what's the impact?
Well, I mean, it's significant because you lose that curb appeal. You say, oh, you have Google there and stuff. And I remember when the announcement was made, it was the kind of win story that we needed. Vern Rayburn, issues with Eclipse, all of a sudden brings Google to the table, and it was a great win. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's gone. And the other message, though, that I think is important that we should not overlook is that Google is a company with a $367 billion market cap value. Okay, the state of New Mexico provided $1 million worth of infrastructure improvements to the hangar, to water, sewer, stuff that is going to stay in Moriarty. And I'm going to take shot here. For us to take aim at Google and say we want our $1 million back, even though we have the infrastructure and the additional $121,000, it was as if the state economic development department took a slingshot and tried to shoot down a drone to teach it a lesson. It just does not go well for improving our reputation as far as how we want to work with companies. Google is a very growing concern. We need to be finding ways that we can partner with them to make sure they maintain something instead of being trying to exact our pound of flesh because they decided to consolidate back into the Northern California.
We're being told, on Tom's point, Janice, we're being told we should feel good, taxpayers should feel good about this, like it was a win, we were getting the money back. They got plenty of dough. Google can write a check for $1 million plus, it's really not that big of a deal. So,
and I think Tom is right on. And the fact that we got the infrastructure and they're paying for it, but we lost so much more. And the thing that we lost, first off, this goes to show that our tax incentives really have very little bearing on whether a company locates here or leaves here. It appears to me that Google decided it was more important to have collaboration amongst its team. What we have to sell and to offer, we didn't sell. We have airspace. We have a place for them to practice. Where is the discussion? Because I don't know where they're going. Do you know? I think. I mean, I don't know if they're going to go to Edwards or Mojave. I don't know.
They have to fly it somewhere.
They have to fly it somewhere. We are ideal, and yet I've never heard any attempt to say, now wait a minute, let's talk about what we bring to the table for you.
Carolyn, it's interesting on this point too. There's a lot of stuff out there about fault finding, and this is part of the process when you lose something, and it's understandable, but with our elected officials that they didn't do enough, so to speak. Was there anything really they could have done? I mean, I agree with Janice. I think it was more of the collaboration between teams. They even used that language in their release, as a matter of fact. Was there anything anybody could have done?
I generally think that there's a level of sophistication that's not happening in New Mexico, and that's happening in California and Silicon Valley. I've had a client of mine that was wooed by Richardson's administration, came in, set up shop, LED lighting, and then left for California, right? So this is happening. I mean, even Intel is shaky, right? So what's not happening here in New Mexico, right? The level of relationships. We have so many attributes here, but we can't keep them here.
That's right.
And when you look at, our educational system and employees, and we're at 49. So there's things that are not working and are broken.
Yeah, good point there.
Yeah.
You know, you're big on connectivity issues and the problems we have here in New Mexico. I've never heard anybody say this. I don't know if it's part of it, but I'm wondering if they had the right amount of connectivity in Moriarty to be able to handle their business with the home office, so to speak, because they're banging big stuff and files back and forth. I've got to think. And,
Well, and you would think so, and what we don't know is in the infrastructure if the connectivity was actually part of it. Was there a gigapop set up out there?
That's right.
We don't know.
That's right.
I suspect that they brought in their own microwaves to upload and download. That would be my guess.
Absolutely. Laura, sorry, I didn't mean to skip you over there, but I want to get that point in. Interestingly, we've had 40 to 45 people that were working out there. Now we're trying to find them jobs elsewhere. The jobs bit was problematic because a lot of folks saw those as an incrementally growing situation over the years. It could grow. What do we do about the jobs part? I mean, you can't just like, well, you used to work for Google, you made 90,000, now you go work over here and make 90,000. It's not going to work that way.
No, it's not going to work that way. It sounds like the state is trying to figure out how to, retool for those folks that have been laid off as a result of this.
Right.
But I think the bigger issue is that we have, a lot of situations like this. I think, in Albuquerque, we talked about the was it Semolina out in the western, this issue of we're going to bring this many, X number of jobs, and using that as a selling point up front. And we basically have no way of, of ensuring that that's going to happen over time. There's no benchmarks that are necessary for funding. There's no triggers. It's sort of a, here's what we're projecting, and, using that as a way to curry favor and get approval, but then actually being able to track that and make sure they're meaningful long-term jobs is something quite different.
What do you make about the idea that Janice mentioned about the incentives to bring people here? Because I'm with Tom with a $360 billion somewhat market cap. Do we really need to woo people with $1 million of this, that, and the other thing? Does it work?
Well, I think that I think that especially in the West, there's a lot of other states that are wooing, that are doing exactly that, and they have, I think of Nevada being able to, get Elon Musk and Tesla. They obviously, rallied and were able to get the right incentives in place. I mean, I think that's part of the equation, but I also agree with Carolyn that, there's other amenities that are important, and I think New Mexico's falling behind on that level. I think culturally, we're very behind the times in a lot of ways. And I think if you just, for any of us that travel, and I've spent some time in other states, and just watching the news, the kinds of issues that they report on and the stuff that they're talking about versus what we're constantly talking about here, very different. And it provides a different quality of life. And I think one that we're going to continue to struggle to be able to attract those kinds of really cutting edge companies, big companies here.
That's right. I vote let's keep the door open. You never know if these folks might decide Edwards is not going to work, the politics are too crazy, Moriarty's still a better idea. They could be back. You never know once they want to fly this thing.
I mean, I know we said they're going to pay that back, but I question whether they are actually going, or whether they would have to pay that $1 million back, because as Tom said, that's going to go to the to the infrastructure. It stayed in Moriarty. Really, they got some JTIP funding when they were Titan Aerospace. JTIP being jobs and jobs. It's jobs funding.
But I know we need to wrap this one up, but I know what you mean, though. We'll see how that all plays out. But the door's still open, Google, if you're listening. Still open. Come back. Up next, we talk about renewed relations between the U.S. and Cuba with some New Mexico residents who grew up in Cuba and moved to the U.S. at an early age.